Hey everybody, today's topic is what's been in all the news this week was the fact that Taylor Swift's first 6 albums, the masters of those first 6 albums, have changed hands yet again. And we're going to be talking about what this means for Taylor Swift and her fans, and was it a good business deal for Shamrock Holdings who made that purchase? And there's a lot to unpack, and we're going to get into that in this video. Hi, I'm Tim Wolf. I'm a Nashville recording artist, and you can listen to some of my music down below. There's a link down below, a bit.ly link where you can listen to my music on Spotify. I'm also on Apple Music and all the other main streaming platforms. And there's also a link down below where you can download for free my 2 singles, recent singles, Born in South Dakota and Castle Built of Cards. So let's dive right into this. So as any good Taylor Swift fan knows, her first 6 masters were owned or developed when she was signed by Big Machine Records. And Scott Borchetta was the principal there, and he became like a father to her. And then he controlled Big Machine Records, and she stopped. She signed with another label, I think it's Universal, if I'm not mistaken. And for her next album, she's got 8 albums out now. And so the last 2 have been another label, and she's got, according to all reports, ways of owning her masters eventually. And I've talked in detail about the controversy around that in my video, My Tears Ricochet, talking about that song, because that song goes in depth about that. So she feels that Scott Borchetta betrayed her by selling the company and her masters included in that to a company controlled by Scott Braun, Ithaca Holdings, who is part of the Carlyle Group. And it's big money. There's a lot of big money in buying and selling masters these days. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. So going back to that, so Taylor feels, and there's a lot more to unpack there. Just to summarize it up, Kanye West is involved in that, and Justin Bieber, and she just feels she was betrayed, and there's a lot of evidence to back that up, that she was treated very unfairly. And there are people who, there's a lot of opinions. A lot of people have a lot of opinions. And I've read some articles that say, well, she signed the papers. She's 15 when she signed with Big Machine Records. A 15-year-old Taylor Swift and her parents did not know that she would become the biggest artist in the world, that she would win Artist of the Decade from the AMAs. Who could have predicted that? You hope for that. When you're a young artist at 15, you hope that you're going to have some success with your music, but you have no idea that you're going to have the clout and the fan base that she has now. So to blame her for signing that contract, I think, is a little unfair, because she had no leverage. She had no success. She had a great reputation for someone at 15, and labels wanted to sign her. That's pretty rare for a 15-year-old artist and songwriter to get signed, but not unheard of. There's others. Bad Barbie was another one to come to mind. Anyway, and Taylor Swift, I don't even put Bad Barbie in the same category of an artist as Taylor Swift. She's a phenomenon. I don't know if we'll still be hearing her name in 15 years like we are Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift is a much higher level. So I didn't mean to even put them in the same category, just that when they were signed, they were roughly the same age. So that has already been talked about. And then earlier this week, it was announced that Scott Braun, who's the principal behind Ithaca Holdings, who purchased Big Machine Records, he bought Big Machine Records for reportedly $330 million. And that included more than just Taylor Swift's masters. There's other artists involved, but she's apparently the biggest artist involved. And according to all reports, he sold the masters, Taylor Swift's 6 masters, to this company, Shamrock. Shamrock is based in Los Angeles, and it was created in 1978 by the late Roy Disney. Isn't that interesting? And recently raised $400 million for its Shamrock Capital Content Fund 2 to acquire entertainment intellectual property rights in industries of film, TV, video games, and music. The overall company has $1 billion in assets under management. So this is a big company. Venture capital firm is what the category that I would put it in. Anyway, I think that's the kind of firm it is. So let's talk a little bit about intellectual rights, and it's on music. There's two sides to any composition. You have the songwriting side, which is sometimes called the publishing side, and often the publishing side, you have, as a songwriter, you have a publisher, and the publisher takes a portion and the songwriter takes a portion. And technically, of that part, usually the publisher gets half and the songwriter gets half of the songwriting part. Now, a strong songwriter can get even a portion of the publishing share, so they're getting more than half of the complete songwriter part. But that's usually considered the publishing. And what you can do and what you can't do with that and how you get paid is different than the master recording. Now, the publishing is the actual song, the writing of the song. So if anyone else covers that song, if anyone else records Shake It Off, or any of the other songs, or My Tears Ricochet, or any of the songs that Taylor has written, Taylor will get revenue from being the songwriter. There'll be a different master. The master is the recording that is released. And you can actually have multiple masters from the same artist of the same song. You can have a live version, you can have an acoustic version, you can have a remix version. So the master is the actual recording of the song that is done by the artist. So, and they have different powers, different things you can do. Now, there is something called a compulsory license, so that once a song has been released, no one can stop an artist, anyone else, from covering that song. Covering is when you record a song that you didn't record. There's no one that can stop another artist from recording that song in the United States because there's a compulsory license. And there is a fixed rate fixed by the U.S. government. It's kind of an archaic, and they're trying to change it. But the way it is, the law is now, it's a fixed rate per stream, per CD that gets sold, etc., for an audio version of that song. And you can't, whoever has the masters can do anything they want with that. And Taylor, even though she wrote those songs, can't stop them from using and continuing to get revenue from, say, from streaming placement like on Spotify and that sort of thing. However, there's a huge difference when it comes to synchronization. Sync means when there's a picture that goes with it, a moving picture. And so anytime you want to have a commercial, let's say, and that's where the big money is for these songs, that's often advertisers will pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for the use of a song, a popular song, in a commercial. And it's a huge revenue maker for hit songs if the songwriter agrees to that going on. And Taylor still is the songwriter and controls that part of it for all the songs on those 6 albums that were purchased by Shamrock. So, and there's been talk from Taylor's side that she said that every week we get requests for big money, requests for wanting to use songs like Shake It Off in a commercial, and we say no, because she doesn't want Scooter Braun to profit from that. Now, so these singles, and she has that right, that's the law. She has the right to say no to that. So, and she also has the right to re-record those albums. And at least the first 5. The 6th one, I am not sure when that will be allowed under the contract that she signed with Big Machine Records. So she has announced that she's starting to re-record these. And so what does that mean for the value for Shamrock Holdings, who purchased these masters? They can't use them for sync because Taylor won't allow it. And the reason she won't allow it is because apparently Scooter Braun still will profit in some way. The agreement, when he sold those masters, they paid $300 million for those masters, and he still gets some residual profit coming from any profit that they make. And so Taylor has addressed all her fans, and she sent a letter to Shamrock Holdings telling them that at first she was excited to work with them, possibly, and once she found out that Scooter Braun would still be profiting, that was absolutely a deal breaker for her. And she said, I'm sorry, but I can't work with you because I can't allow Scooter Braun to continue anything that I can control, I will not allow him to profit from that. And she actually, when they were going to be sold, from when Scooter Braun was looking to sell the masters, she and her people, Taylor's people, were involved with negotiating with Scooter to try to buy the masters, but there was a very unusual requirement from Scooter Braun's side that required that she sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, before she even got into the negotiations. So a very blanket, lifetime, in perpetuity non-disclosure agreement that she would never, or not a disclosure agreement, but an agreement that she would not disparage him in public. I guess technically it's not a disclosure agreement, but it's an agreement that requires her not to say anything negative about Scooter Braun in public for perpetuity. And that was before she would even know what the price was. That's very unusual. That's not usually how negotiations are done. You can do an NDA. That's why I said NDA. NDA is not uncommon, and that is the scope of that is where you can't discuss the terms of the agreement. But to require that before you even enter into negotiations, before you even know what the price is, you have to sign this agreement. So he could have forced her to sign that and then said, well, I'm actually not going to sell it. Or the price that he quoted would be the GDP of the United States that was just way out of line, and nobody would pay that because it's not worth that. He could have had that within his power, and she already would have signed the agreement that she's a muffled agreement that she can't say anything about him, and she wasn't willing to agree to do that. So Shamrock paid $300 million for her first 6 records, and those 6 records are Taylor Swift, Fearless, Speak Now, Red, 1989, and Reputation. And actually Scooter Braun probably made out very, very well with his financial dealings, because he paid $330 to buy Big Machine Records, and he sold just part of it for almost what he bought it for. And so he got Big Machine Records without Taylor, other than Taylor Swift, for almost nothing. And on top of that, he's still profiting from, so he sold something and he's still getting profits from that, what he sold, even after though he cashed in. So financially, I think he made out like a bandit. And why are these rights going for so much money? I mean, there's been a rush to buy both publishing rights and master rights. These venture capital funds are raising hundreds of millions of dollars to buy music. And it's not just, it could go either way. It can be the masters, or it can be just the publishing side, the songwriter side. For example, Imagine Dragons, the alternative rock band, sold the publishing rights to their catalog to date for $100 million. That's a lot of money. And it's not even the masters. They don't, based on my understanding, they didn't get any money. They didn't sell the masters because the record company that they signed most likely owns the masters. But they sold their publishing rights for $100 million. And there's companies like Hypnosis is a company that has been very, very active, that has raised money in the venture capital field. And it's just very hot right now that writes both publishing side and master sides. And some companies say they want both because they want to control everything. So they won't do it unless they can get both the master and the publishing side. But that's really hot right now. So that's why people are raising money. And did Shamrock overpay? If they can't use, people are saying, well, they can't even use it in sync because Taylor's going to say no. And she's going to re-record all of her singles, or the entire album, all 6 albums. And she's going to put them on Spotify and all the streaming channels and make CDs and tell people, please buy the new ones that I own and not the ones that are owned by Shamrock. So some could say they made a really stupid purchase and they're not going to make any money. But there is an article from Rolling Stone earlier this week. It says Taylor Swift is a transcendent artist with a timeless catalog, and we made this investment because we believe in the immense value and opportunity that comes with her work. We fully respect and support her decision, and while we hope to formally partner, he's talking about the decision regarding not working with her and allowing them to do the sync. We appreciate Taylor's open communication and professionalism with us these past few weeks. We hope to partner with her in new ways moving forward and remain committed to investing with artists in their work. It says, did Shamrock Capital pay $300 million on old Taylor Swift albums, or why did they do it? And they talk about, well, they can't do sync, so that's a big negative, but they make the point that sync revenue in the entire industry, recording industry, is only, depending if you look at it on wholesale or retail, is only 2.5 to 3.8% of the total revenue. So it's a small portion of the total revenue that comes in from recorded music. So they're saying that, so even though they can't use it for sync because she's still got the right to say no, it's saying not a big deal, and according to this article. Then they're saying that, okay, it costs a lot of money to re-record, and then you have to promote them, and they're wondering 2 to 5 to 10 years from now, will any of it matter? When UMG, which is the company she's with now, is probably going to promote these, when their promotion budget is finished, will people still will go back to streaming the original ones? This article says that there's a Glenn Tilbrook of the band Squeeze appeared in Rolling Stone, and he said that in 2010, his group faithfully re-recorded their hits on our appropriately named 2010 album, Spot the Difference. And their strategy was the same as what Taylor Swift is looking for. They wanted to get the new tracks synced at a budget prices that advertisers and movie makers wouldn't be able to resist. Well, Taylor doesn't have to do it at a budget. She's the only way you could sync her songs. So she's a little bit different. But the plot fell flat. In the last 10 years, they haven't had a single sale of their re-recorded for sync. Now, Squeeze and Taylor Swift are two completely different levels as far as superstardom. Taylor Swift is the biggest artist in the world. Squeeze, yeah, but they're not nowhere near. They're not the superstar that Taylor Swift is. So does their experience bear out for what Taylor is going to have? So, and he says, Tilbrook continues, and he says, it takes an awful lot of time and money, and it's an under-considered dimension of the story for new albums. She owns her masters and may well therefore be on the hook for recording costs. If her re-records become a loss-making enterprise, and he's saying, I'm not saying they will, but if they do, how long before, say, greenlighting a big Coca-Cola Super Bowl sync for the original version of Shake It Off becomes a temptation? Because she would profit from that as well. Would Taylor give in to that? I don't think she would. I mean, she feels so strongly, and she's been hurt so badly, and she's not hurting for money. She's got lots and lots of money. She'll never spend all the money she has. So the only motivation for her to do that would be for money. And then they go on to say, how about a biopic? Say when a movie studio needs to license the recordings made by Swift when she was 14, 17, and 20, rather than 30, as we've seen with the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, such projects can provide a huge career boost for the popularity of artists amongst the next generation of listeners. Swift doing fine on that score, obviously. Folklore is one of our most popular and acclaimed albums yet, but years from now, will she really turn down such a lucrative opportunity out of enmity towards Scooter Braun? Shamrock is apparently hoping that. So it's just interesting. Did Shamrock do a good deal by buying these masters? Or are they going to regret it from a profit and loss standpoint? Because they're venture capital. They don't care about anything but the bottom line. Taylor cares a lot more about what's in her heart and how she feels and how she was wronged and connecting with her fans than about the bottom line. So two different objectives there, I would say. But they end out the article by saying, if Taylor Swift's first two albums are worth $300 million in the modern institutional investor-driven business, you have to wonder, what are the first few albums by Drake, the Beatles, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, U2, Madonna, or Led Zeppelin fetch? Shamrock may just have lit the blue torch paper on an acquisition frenzy that quickly escalates multiples and master rights. Eventually they could make the firm's buyout of Swift's music looking less like a blooper and more like a bargain. Interesting. $300 million is a lot of money. But the kind of money being thrown around these days for rights of music is just boggles your mind. $100 million for Imagine Dragons publishing rights. Not the masters, just the publishing rights. That blows my mind. So right now, these venture capital firms are chasing this music, whatever they can get their hands on, and the values are only going to go up. Who's to say that Taylor won't buy her masters back one day? Maybe she will, those first 6. I mean, if she continues to succeed, if she continues to ascend with her ability and talent and the quality of the music that she's putting out, like Folklore. Folklore is absolutely amazing. One of the best albums I've ever listened to. Makes me cry every time I hear My Tears Ricochet. And if she continues that ascension, now it's difficult, it's unlikely based on other artists. Even most artists burn out. 10 years is the average time, maximum time you can be on the peak. Taylor's done it for 15 and doesn't look like she's stopping now, so she could be breaking that pattern. I hope she does. I literally hope she does. I hope that the stuff that she's doing now looks like Little League compared to where she's going to go with her journey and her development as an artist. I wish her absolutely the best, and I hope that these new recordings come out perfectly. She says that she has a lot of surprises for her fans in store, so we'll see. It's an exciting time to be following this. So anyway, I hope that what I've shared in this video is useful to you, and maybe you learned something as a Taylor Swift fan about the music business or maybe Taylor Swift. And please, I love the Taylor Swift fan, the Swifties interaction. Please put your comments, your opinions in the comments below. I try to respond to every comment, and let's talk about this if it's something that's of interest to you. Let's have a dialogue.
Hey everybody, this is Tim Wolf. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please go to the link down below in the description. There's a bit.ly link. Listen to my music at Spotify. I appreciate it very much. It means a lot to an artist if you follow them. If you would be kind enough to like the video if you enjoyed it and share it with your friends. Finally, be sure to subscribe. And then also there are other videos on this screen that you can watch. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.